Good morning, welcome. If you guys would stand with us, please sing. I've got the foundation, I'll rock your solid ground. Nations rise and fall. Kingdom what's strong now shaking. We trust well in your name. Name of Jesus. We trust the name of Jesus. You are the only King forever. Mighty God, and Father. You are the only King forever. Forevermore. You are victorious. You are the only King forever. Mighty God, and Father. You are the only King forever. Forevermore. You are victorious. Unmatched in all your wisdom, in love and justice you will reign. Every knee will bow. We bring our expectation, our hope is anchored in your name. Name of Jesus. We trust the name of Jesus. You are the only King forever. Mighty God, you reign higher. You are the only King forever. Forevermore. You are victorious. You are the only King forever. Mighty God, you reign higher. You are the only King forever. Forevermore. You are victorious. Your kingdom has no end. We lift our banner high. We lift the name of Jesus. From age to age you reign. Your kingdom has no end. You are the only King forever. Mighty God, you reign higher. You are the only King forever. Forevermore. You are victorious. You are the only King forever. Mighty God, you reign higher. You are the only King forever. Forevermore. You are victorious. You are the only King forever. Mighty God, you lift it higher. You are the only King forever. Forevermore, you are victorious. Amen. It is good news we hear this morning as we sing praises to you, God. You are our King, and we want to just lift you up for that this morning. It's good to be in your house with your people. For this on your name, amen. You guys may be seated. So if you haven't grabbed your bulletin, or maybe you've been following us online, today we have really exciting news. Matt and Julia Rieniets are here. We've been talking with Matt and Julia. He's here to candidate for us to be our new pastor, and it's been a really fun weekend. A lot of you have got a chance to meet them through all the festivities this weekend. But he'll be preaching for us today, and following the service, we're going to have a lunch, which I know during these times sounds kind of crazy, to try and gather for for food like this, but everything has been bought from the store and individually packaged. We've spread out the tables, and we've limited the seating, so it's 5 seats per table. These are the same guidelines that the restaurants have too. But I want to encourage you guys as we go downstairs to kind of not all crowd and practice social distancing. Take your time and find a seat. But find a seat maybe with those who you've already seen, or people you came with, or people in your family. We still are doing our best to practice social distancing and wear our masks and everything. But of course, if you're eating, you won't be wearing your mask. But this provides an opportunity for us to get to ask some questions to Matt and Julia. And that will be online too, for those of you who are already joining us online. We'll have our lunchtime and the time of questions live streamed for you guys. And someone running that too, so you can text in your questions and we'll ask those. So, but it's good to be here today. It was so long we couldn't gather, and this is the most people we've had back so far. It's very, very exciting. It feels good. But as the church body, we like to spend time praying for our needs. So this morning, instead of our time of offering, which we usually do in this time of the service, I want to encourage you guys, you can send in checks and stuff to the mail. Worship, one of the ways that we worship is our tithes and offerings, and so I don't want to take that away from you. You can do that by sending it in or online, but I want to do our best to not pass plates and things like that. But I also want to spend time in prayer for those in our congregation who aren't well, and because we believe God is a healer and that He can do this. But more specifically, a guy, we're doing Parsons renovations right now. Jack is a contractor who's been working with Daniel, one of our trustees. And he got stung by a bee the other day, and his face just swole up when he showed up to the parsonage. It was very alarming. Our dog never barks at anybody. She was barking a lot at him. But he went to the hospital, and since then the swelling has still not gone down. So he's in ER, and he would ask for our prayers this morning. He's been really awesome to have around the house doing these parsonage renovations too. So if you guys want to bow your heads at this time. Father, thank you that we can gather. Thank you that we can lift up your name in your house this morning. That you've provided so many ways for us to gather, even if that is online. Bless our time here today. As we try and get to know Matt and Julia and plan for our future and look forward to things to come. We want to pray for healing for those with COVID or the fear of COVID. We want to pray for a vaccine and a safe one in your timing, God. We lift Jack up to you this morning, that you can bring down the swelling and be with the doctors. Let him know we're praying for him. Let him know that you love him. And this morning, we're just excited to be in your house to worship you for all the things that you've already accomplished on our behalf. That you sent your Son to redeem us, to save us, and it is sufficient in the full payment for us. Thank you for being our King. Let us worship now in response to this amazing gift. Pray this on your name. Down on my knees. I surrender. I surrender. And I want to know you more. I want to know you more. I surrender. I surrender. I want to know you more. I want to know you more. Father, as we dive into your word this morning, we want to know you more. Pray this on your name, amen. You guys may be seated.
Good morning. Angels, this is exciting. We finally get to be here. So, as we were approaching this week, last week we were thinking, oh man, this might not actually happen up until like 2 days before we came. So this is exciting. A lot of you guys I've met already. It's been a lot of fun to share our hearts with you. And for you to share your hearts with me, and it's an honor that I get to bring the word, share God's heart with you today. Sermon title today is Rock of All Ages. It's based out of Isaiah 44, verses 6 through 8. And the reason why we're looking at this today is, actually it's kind of because I'm lazy. All right, so this is probably not a good thing at a job interview to tell you, but so I'm preaching next week at the church I serve part-time, and we go off of the lectionary, and so I'm looking forward to the last couple of weeks. Okay, well, what should I preach on? And this next week, this is the Old Testament lesson that we are following through at Stavanger, and it's, which isn't that a wonderful Norwegian name? So I don't know if you guys knew that was the name of the church, Stavanger. But anyways, as I read this, it just captured my heart. In that, like, wow, this would be really fitting for this time that I get with you today. Because it's not any time that we get to hear a sermon based on the name that you have chosen for yourselves as a church to identify as. I forgot something. I think we have a picture of my kids, by chance, and like me as a family. Julia's here. We've been married for the last 6 years, and then the guy on the left is Thor. He is 3. And the little girl on the right, that firecracker, she is 1. She is Phoebe. So Phoebe and Thor, and then Matt and Julia there. So they're really cute. And we miss them. We're excited to see them tomorrow. But anyways, today we get to read God's word and hear it together. And so I want to invite you to turn in your Bibles if you got paper, or if you got your cell phone, scroll on down. You got Isaiah chapter 44, verses 6 through 8. Isaiah 44, verses 6 through 8. Reading in Jesus' name. Thus says the Lord, the King of Israel and his Redeemer, the Lord of hosts. I am the first, and I am the last. Besides me there is no God. Who is like me? Let him proclaim it. Let him declare and set it before me. Since I appointed an ancient people, let them declare what is to come and what will happen. Fear not, nor be afraid. Have I not told you from of old and declared it? You are my witnesses. Is there a God besides me? There is no rock. I know not any. Let's pray. Father, I thank you that you have given us your word. That you have given us comfort in your word. And so now please speak. Speak so that we may hear. In your name we pray. Amen. Have you ever had the experience of trying to fix something or make something, and you needed a particular tool or instrument, and you didn't have it, and so you're just you're looking around yourself, and you're thinking, maybe I could try that. Well, I do that a lot, and a lot of times it works out. It works out. You know, there's some things you can do that it really works out to do that with. So you see a little screw, it's not very tight. That butter knife is going to work. You know, you can do this with something. It might kind kind of a little bit of a redneck, and I pride myself on that, and it works a lot of times. And then other times it doesn't at all. And you spend hours and hours and hours in the hot sun, and you're working and working and working, and you're just getting further and further into the hole. And it's so disheartening when you find out I've been doing something with tools that aren't working. And it's because I didn't go out and get the thing that I needed, that I can't do this thing. And it's really bad when you actually end up doing more damage than if you didn't even touch it in the first place. And it's just terrible, right? That is, it's a flawed analogy, but it's kind of like what this passage is talking about today. What Isaiah is telling us today is that if you're looking to get a job done, you need this particular tool. And there's no other tool in all the universe that's going to work. Now, it's flawed because God is not a tool, and we aren't just here trying to get a job done. And so it's flawed in that way, but work with me on it. God has given us something that we need more than anything else in all of creation. And the only way to get it is by using the instrument, or the means, or the person, the rock, that God has given us in Jesus. So that's what I hope you see today. I hope you see this rock, this person that God has given to you today, to give you the thing that you absolutely need most. This is why this need that we have, this is why this passage is written. Isaiah is writing to the Israelites who are in captivity, or not in captivity yet, they're going to be put into captivity by the Babylonians, and they have been struggling with understanding who they are. Are we people who can worship anything, or are we people who worship only God? And they're thinking, do I need good crops? Well, those gods over there promise good crops, so I'm going to worship them, and they may give me good crops. Or these people are going to come and they're going to enslave me, and so I'm going to worship their gods so I don't face the consequences of not worshiping their God. And they're struggling with this identity of, am I allowed to worship anything and everything in this life? Or is there only one being that is worth worshiping? And only one being that is going to work out for me if I worship him? My thesis for you today is that there is only one being. There is only one person who you can worship that's actually going to work out for you. You can worship all sorts of things in this world, but it's not going to work out for you. To mention the people of Israel, they were tempted to worship the Babylonian god Marduk in their pantheon as they were enslaved by them. Earlier on, they had the temptation to worship the Canaanite gods, Baal and Asherah, and it was the constant temptation. And if you have your Bibles open, you can actually look further on down in the chapter. Isaiah spells it out for us. He paints a picture, he tells a story of this guy who goes out into the woods, and he shows his mastery over the earth by crafting a tool out of iron. And then he goes out into the woods and he finds a tree and he shows his mastery over it, and he chops it down, and then he cuts it in half. He cuts it in half. Half of it he uses to build fire, and he roasts meat on it, and he's fed, and he is proud of himself. He's like, I am warm. It's like Russell Crowe and Castaway. I have made fire. I am the master. Like that. That's this guy here, and he's like, I am the dude. But the other half, what he does is he carves it up and he fashions it into little God, and he bows down to it. He doesn't realize that he is the master over this tree. Instead, he bows down to it and he says, "Save me, save me." And it's this curious thing that instead of recognizing his role, he has bowed down to worship this God that he has made. And Isaiah considers the situation, and he essentially says, can't you see that this thing in your hand is just a lie? Can't you see that it can't deliver you? You are meant to be the master over creation, not it over you. But now that you've dropped yourself below it, the only thing that you can expect to receive from it in the end is a pile of ash. And that is the crux of our issue, that anything that we worship that is not God is something in creation. It's on this lateral plane, and it can't deliver you. And for us Westerners today, this example, it seems so far out there. You know, although there are exceptions to this with the rise of some spiritualism and the rise of some Eastern religions here, you know, most people here generally understand that you can't make a god out of wood or metal and have it save you from anything. You are the master over it. And yet, like, it's weird for us, but yet we're not that far away from it. We may not make a god out of wood or metal and bow down to it, but we do it all the time, out of our retirement funds, out of our careers, our families, our social standing, our health, our intelligence, even our moral and political philosophies. We do it all the time. I'm not saying like those people outside these doors, I'm talking about all of us. This is what we do. It's a normal, terrible thing. Luther, he had written in his large catechism once that he says, that to which your heart clings and entrusts itself is really your God. That thing that you can't live without, functionally, is your true God. We so often take good things and we say, if I can't have this, I am lost, I am crushed. All of life is ruined. We do that all the time. We make good things into ultimate things that they were never meant to be. Now, we could talk on and on and on about how all sin is ultimately an act of idolatry and how everything that we do in this life that doesn't worship God is idolatry. We could talk on and on and on about that. But I think what our passage is really wanting us to focus on is to see the futility of it. How it just doesn't work out for us. Of how everything that you worship in this life, anything that you do that is not God, is going to disappoint you. I think that's the focus of this text. And I think it shows itself in a lot of different ways, but I'm just going to bring up three here. Two horizontal ways and one vertical way of how this just does not work for you. Anytime you worship something that is not the God of the Bible. You know, on the first horizontal way, kind of on the personal level, you know, it's been shown throughout all of history that it just doesn't work out personally. If you worship anything in this life that is not the Creator, you're going to end up finding out that the thing doesn't end up satisfying you. You know, there's a reason why those who worship money feel like they never have enough. There's a reason why those who worship their family are consumed with losing them. There's a reason why those who worship power and authority feel threatened by anyone who might take that away from them. And the reason why is that even if you end up achieving your wildest dreams, if you get that prestige, if you get that power, if you get that paper, if you get anything that you set your mind to in this world, you're going to find out that you actually haven't arrived. You're going to find out that that thing doesn't satisfy you. You may delude yourself for a time thinking, you know, if I just get that one thing, it's going to be good. And you get it for that moment and for that weekend, you feel good about yourself. But as the days go on, you end up finding out that this does not satisfy. This is not enough for me. And the reason why is because you know at your core that you were created for something greater than it. People call this the God-shaped hole in every human heart. At your core, you know it. You know that these things that you pursue in this life are not good enough to satisfy you. You know it. People throughout all history have seen this take place time and time again when they achieve all that they have tried to get, and it's not enough. When we spend our lives in devotion to some sort of God in this life on the horizontal plane, whether it's material or immaterial, we always end up with buyer's remorse. It's been played out over and over again, but it's not just on the personal level, it's also on the social level. It doesn't work out for us as a society to worship a false god. There's a lot of folks out there today who they seem to believe that your religious beliefs, or lack thereof, actually don't really matter too much in this life. They're meant to be personal only, and they say that for you to be a good person, it's not about what you believe, but it's about only what you do. But I think the facts of history completely go against that. What you believe, especially about God and our relationship to Him, it matters tremendously for this life. And if you believe something about God that just isn't true, there's going to be terrible consequences in this life. And to illustrate that, just think with me about how different philosophies throughout history affect our actions. Across the planet, we've seen case after case about what one believes about God and His creation, how it affects them and their relation to society, and it so often leads to a great evil. And contrary to popular belief, most religions, including most versions of secularism, which is irreligious, even that, they've historically been incredibly intolerant towards those who believe differently than them, or who are different from them. Most religious beliefs throughout history have been incredibly tribalistic. The facts of history testify to this. Whether on the basis of religion or irreligion, tribalism and hatred of the one who is different, it's nothing new. But it often stands at the very center of most man-made religious beliefs. The atrocities of the communists in Russia and in China were a direct result of their irreligious beliefs about God. The atrocities in Nazi Germany and in Africa with the various ethnic cleansings that have gone on over the last century, and even in our good old America with our support of slavery. All of those things, they have stemmed from a false belief about God and how He has created people. Those people are less than us, and so we need to get rid of them. They are the enemy. They are hated by God, and so we get rid of them. It happens over and over and over again throughout history. We've seen it time and time again. And today, our supposedly tolerant modern culture isn't immune to it. Our culture has embraced this curious notion of relativism, which teaches that everyone can kind of define truth for themselves. But we're also simultaneously extremely focused on being just and moral people. So we can't say anything is true or wrong, but we're also so consumed with justice and morality. It's this weird situation. At least for me, it's curious. And each day you kind of wonder, what is actually good in the culture? Each day, good, what is defined as good, it's kind of like a moving target. One month, it's this is bad, and then the next month, it's not that big of a deal. We can accept it. And it's a result of this pursuit of relativism. There's no bedrock to say that anything is good or evil. Make your decisions however you want to be. You can identify as whoever you want to be. You can say anything is true or not true, and there's no foundation there. You get to define your own reality in this world, and this is kind of what our culture has accepted. And so the result is that we have a culture that is simultaneously screaming for justice while rejecting any sort of foundation by which to call anything just or unjust. We've rejected God's revelation as our authority. We've rejected Him as the one who determines what is right and wrong, who tells us what is right and wrong. We've quickly tried and rejected traditionalism, like going to a constitution as our authority. We've rejected empiricism, like look at the science, look at the facts, look at this, and this determines it. We've embraced relativism, but we've found that we still need to make moral judgments. And so, what's left as a basis for making moral judgments about society? Popularity. Today, right and wrong, they are generally defined and enforced in our society on the basis of what other people will get tonight. Or if you're wondering, where does cancel culture come from? That's it. If we can get a movement together, we can get people against this thing and see, it's wrong. Other people are against it. And the unavoidable end result of this is that those that we disagree with about what is right and wrong, we don't debate them, but instead we just view them as lesser people who aren't worth dealing with. We don't view them as complex and valuable people to be known and understood, but just as labels, as conservatives, as liberals, as snowflakes, or bigots, as ignorant boomers, or foolish millennials. Which, as a foolish millennial, I take offense. But, you know, because of where we have gone for our foundation for morality, we aren't able to debate the merits of opposing truth claims while affirming the value of the ones making those claims. And so instead, we retreat into our own corners, and we talk amongst ourselves about how bad those people over there, I'm pointing at Paul, about how bad those people are over there, and we don't wrestle with their claims, we don't wrestle with anything about that, and we dehumanize them. What we have right now as a culture is a recipe for making a culture that functions by vilifying their opponents, by oppressing those who might speak up for themselves, who find that they can't, and for removing any who might dissent. I think if you look in the greater culture, you'll see this played out over and over again. And unfortunately, we see this in the church. This pursuit of relativism, it's with us. It's not those people out there. What you believe about God and His creation has tremendous effects on the way that you live your life. And as a society, we're facing a lot of those consequences. Whether it's on the personal level and finding meaning for your life, or on the societal level, building a just society. The things in this life, those are your basis for life. You're going to find that it doesn't work. The only thing that works for that is God. But we're talking about societal issues. This is kind of horizontal stuff. And those are important. But the vertical is much more important. This relationship that we have with God. You know, false worship, it doesn't work out for us in building a better life here. It doesn't work any better for building a life with God. I want you to think back to Isaiah's illustration of the man that made an idol out of the tree. What's the central point there? The point is that there's only one being who can actually save you from your deepest need. And that everything else we replace him with is going to disappoint us. If you can imagine a box with me for a moment. I don't have a box up here, but if you can imagine a box, and all of creation fits inside this box. Okay? All of creation fits inside this box. If your deepest need was to receive power over another person, or to receive money, or whatever, you could meet that need in this box, and you could use the stuff of the box to meet that need. You could use the stuff of creation. You could use the horizontal stuff, the things that are like you, to meet that need. The message of the Bible, however, is that your deepest need is not to get more money, it's not to get more power, it's not to have a better family, it's not to have a better retirement home, it's not to have a better life right now. What the Bible tells you is that your greatest need is to have this relationship with God restored. That you are brought back to fellowship with Him. That you were made to be with Him, but that you're not because of your sin. That's the message of the Bible. Your deepest need is to improve your relationship, not with everyone else around you, but with God. And so you can go about it from one of two ways. You can either improve your relationship with God by acting good towards Him, or you can improve your relationship by God making you good. You can be good towards God, or God can make you good. There's only two ways to go about it. And the problem with the first option is that it always boils down to manipulation. You're trying to manipulate God into accepting Him. You know, I used to do this as a teenager. You know, I'd feel the weight of my sin against God, and I would pray, God, I will never look at those girls like that again. I will never think about them like that again. I promise that I'll do better. Please forgive me. I'd pray, Lord, I'll do a better job reading my Bible this week. Please forgive me. I still do this as an adult. Last year I came down with influenza pretty bad, and I thought, man, what did I do wrong? I better pray, because this is getting really bad. Now, what's wrong with all that? Is it wrong to pray? Is it wrong to ask for forgiveness? Is it wrong to try to do better? Of course not. Those are all really good things. The issue is that I, like all of you, because I know you, because you're a person and I'm a person, I, like all of you, struggle with the tendency to try to fix my own relationship with God rather than being dependent on Him to fix my relationship with Him. Ultimately, it always boils down to me, my attempt to manipulate God. See, God, I'm actually pretty good. You can love me. Because, see, I'm not that bad. I'm not as bad as those people over there. I'm trying really hard, God. See? It's me manipulating God. It's me trying to earn my relationship with God. It's me trying to use the stuff of creation to fix a relationship that goes beyond creation. And you can't do it. That relationship has to be mended by the one who created everything. And this is why Jesus once said, I am the way, and the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. He's telling you that anything that you use to try to fix your relationship with God is not going to work. Nothing is going to work. No form of religion that is not rooted in the God who comes down to you. Nothing is going to work. No amount of trying harder is going to work. There's only one tool, one person, one rock that can fix this relationship. And thank the Lord that He has provided us with that rock, that person, that tool in Jesus. Now, in my study of this passage this week, I was reminded of a similar passage with a similar image of this rock that was used to save God's people. If you jump back in the history of the people of God, you don't need to look it up, but it's in Exodus 17 if you're curious. The Israelites are journeying towards the mountain of the Lord. They're coming out of slavery, and they complain to the Lord that He wasn't providing for them water to drink. And they were wondering, is the Lord really among us? Things aren't working out for us. And seeing that, God said to Moses, take some of the elders of Israel, and I want you to go to that big rock over at Horeb. And I'm going to stand there, and you're going to strike the rock with a staff, and water's going to rush out of the rock, and the people are going to drink, and they're going to know that I am here. And so Moses did that, and that's exactly what happened. Now, the Apostle Paul, in 1 Corinthians 10, he later references this event, and he observes that this gift of water from the rock in the desert points to Jesus as the true rock that provides all things. He writes that the people of God all drank the same spiritual drink, for they drank from the spiritual rock that followed them. The rock was Christ. Now, what is he getting at? What Paul is saying is that there's only one being who is responsible for all the provision
that Israel received as they were in the process of being redeemed from slavery. And there's only one being who is responsible for our salvation from our slavery to sin, and that person is Jesus Christ. As the rock that was struck in the desert provided life, giving water to the people of God, so too Christ, when he was struck, provided life-giving righteousness for us. And so, God the Son, in our passage here, God the Son, the King of Israel, the Lord of hosts, the first and the last, the one who is like no other, the rock from whom all of creation came into being, took on the flesh of his creation. He was struck, and he died on behalf of that same creation, so that you might be redeemed. God knew that the only way that your relationship with him could be fixed would be for him to make you good. So that's what he did. He took on your sin upon himself, and he gave you his life-giving righteousness so that you can be redeemed from sin. And so now, the Christian life, we get to receive. We get to receive what God has given us in Jesus. We don't reject the gift that he has given, but we receive it with open hands. We rest on him as our solid rock, our sure foundation. We stop trying to fix ourselves, but instead we rely on Christ's fix for us. And as the old hymn says, my hope is built on nothing else, nothing less than Jesus' blood and righteousness. I dare not trust the sweetest frame, but wholly lean on Jesus' name. On Christ the solid rock I stand, all other ground is sinking sand. All other ground is sinking sand. Now before we close it, I want you to think with me about what Christ being your rock for the life to come means for you in this life you're living right now. You remember earlier when I talked about, today's supposedly, tolerant world is really struggling with how to be moral while still valuing people? Relativism, can't provide a basis for calling anything right and wrong. Popularity almost always leads to a tooth and claw system of oppression. Well, the Christian doesn't have that problem. We don't have a problem with being able to say why something is right or wrong. The Christian, you get to look at how the rock of your salvation lived his life on this earth. And you see that guy didn't turn a blind eye to injustice, but he spoke truth to power. You see that guy defended the weak and the marginalized from those who were taking advantage of them. You see that he loved the unlovable. You see that he forgave the unforgivable. How he was courageous in the face of evil, and how he was even faithful even to the point of death. The Christian looks at that rock and says, I worship this man who created every person, who loves every person, who even died for every person, who lived. This guy who lived like that, I worship this man, and I'm going to try to live like him. I know that this life that he's calling me to seems counterintuitive. I know that it seems difficult to bear. I know that it may lead to a lot of discomfort for me, but I know that he isn't wrong. The Christian says, I know that he isn't calling me to do something that is bad for me or anyone else. And so the Christian says to the world, you think you have a basis for why you should care for the poor? For why you should pursue justice and mercy? I have a better one. The basis for why you should care for the poor? My basis is rooted in the God who created all things, who owns everything, and who gave up everything so that he might give you everything. My basis for being kind is not rooted in being a Midwesterner. It is rooted in the God that I worship, who not only loves those who love him, but who even loved his enemies so much
that he died for them so that he could bring them to be with him, so that they could live forever with him. And so for us Christians, we not only see Jesus as the rock on which we can base our lives for the life to come, we see him as the rock by which we live our lives today. And so today, if you're looking for a reason for why you can have hope for the life to come, or you're wondering why you should even live a certain way in this current life, my appeal to you is to look to Jesus as the rock on which you can base your life. He gives you a sure hope for the age to come, and he makes sense out of the age we're living in right now. So this Jesus, he is the rock of this age and of the age to come. He is the rock of all ages. Let's pray. Father, we thank you for giving us Jesus. We really mess things up when we don't worship him. We make a big mess out of this life. And we have no hope without him. So thank you for giving us him. May we continue to trust him, grow in our trust of him. And Lord, if there's anyone listening who does not trust him now, I say you would plant faith in their heart, that they would know you, that they can trust you to guide them, to provide for them. Amen.
You guys can stand and join us, please. Lord, bless you and keep you. Make his face shine upon you. Be gracious to you. Lord, turn his face toward you and give you peace. Amen. 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 Again, amen. Lord bless you and keep you. Make his face shine upon you. Be gracious to you. Lord turn his face toward you and give you peace. Amen. Amen. Amen.
From Numbers 6:24-26. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face shine on you and be gracious to you. The Lord turn his face toward you and give you peace.
His favor be upon you in 1,000 generations, and your family, and your children, and their children, and their children. His favor be upon you in 1,000 generations, and your family, and your children, and their children, and their children. His presence go before you. Behind, beside, all around you, he's with you, he is with you, he is with you, before you, in need, in time, and you go, you will be rejoicing, he is for you, 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 sing amen. My life is yours. My hope is in you only. My heart you hold. 'Cause you made this sinner holy, holy, holy. It's your glory. Your glory is so beautiful. Fall to my knees now. The heartbeat of my life is to worship in your light. Your glory is so beautiful. Your glory is so beautiful. Sing my life. My life is yours. My hope is in you only. My heart you hold. 'Cause you made this sinner holy, holy. Holy, your glory is so beautiful. Fall to my knees now. The heartbeat of my life is to worship in your light. Your glory is so beautiful. Your glory is so beautiful. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, hallelujah. Jesus, you are glory, glory, hallelujah. Jesus, you are glory, glory. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Jesus, you are good. What can wash away my sin? Nothing but the blood of Jesus. What can make me whole again? Nothing but the blood of Jesus. Oh, precious is the flow that makes me white as snow. No other fount I know, nothing but the blood of Jesus. Nothing but the blood of Jesus.
Our may Jesus been great to be with you today. Hear now this benediction in Hebrews 13. And may the God of peace, who brought back again from the dead our Lord Jesus, the great shepherd of the sheep, by the blood of the eternal covenant, equip you with everything good, that he may do his will, working in us that which is pleasing in his sight through Jesus Christ, to whom be glory forever and ever. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Go in peace.
Go in peace, but also join us downstairs. You did the right thing. It's okay. Go in peace is right. But we'll be downstairs. I would recommend everyone to get a seat, and we'll dismiss people to get food by tables. Actually, we got down there. So.